Imagine a city so magnificent it seemed untouchable, a fortress with towering walls, standing defiantly against time and invaders. This was Troy. But one of the greatest wars in ancient history wasn't fought over land, treasure, or conquest. It began with love, or maybe lust, or maybe just a mix of human folly and divine intervention. The story of the Trojan War is more than just a tale of battles. It's a tapestry woven with betrayal, honor, vengeance, and fate. It's where gods and mortals shared the stage, each playing their part in an epic drama that still captures our imagination thousands of years later. And today, we'll dive into that legendary story from its spark to its fiery conclusion. Our tale begins not on Earth, but on Mount Olympus, where the gods of ancient Greece lived. The trouble started with a golden apple inscribed with 3 simple words. It was tossed into a banquet by Eris, the goddess of discord, who hadn't been invited. And, oh, what chaos it caused. Hera, the queen of the gods, Athena, the goddess of wisdom and war, and Aphrodite, the goddess of love, all claimed the apple. The gods, being the dramatic beings they were, couldn't settle this among themselves. So they chose a mortal to decide. Paris, the young prince of Troy, handsome but naive. Paris was tasked with judging who among the goddesses was the fairest. Each offered him a tempting bribe. Hera promised him power. Athena offered wisdom and victory in battle. But Aphrodite's promise was irresistible. The love of the most beautiful woman in the world. Paris gave the apple to Aphrodite, and with that choice, he set the wheels of fate in motion. The most beautiful woman in the world was Helen, queen of Sparta. But there was one problem. Helen was already married to Menelaus, the Spartan king. Aphrodite, true to her word, helped Paris seduce Helen, and together they fled to Troy. Agamemnon saw an opportunity for glory and power and agreed. But they needed more than just their armies. They needed the greatest warriors of the age. Among those called were Odysseus, known for his cunning and cleverness; Achilles, the greatest warrior of his time, born of a mortal father and a sea goddess mother; Ajax, a towering giant of a man; and many more legendary figures. Each of these heroes had their own motivations, from honor to destiny to mere obligation. Together, they formed an alliance of 1,000 ships and set sail for Troy, launching what would become one of the longest and most storied wars in ancient history. When the Greek forces arrived on the shores of Troy, they were met with resistance. Troy, led by King Priam and defended by his son Hector, was no easy target. The city was protected by massive walls said to have been built by the gods themselves. For 9 long years, the Greeks laid siege to the city, but Troy stood firm. The war was not just fought with swords and spears, but also with minds and hearts. Alliances were tested, rivalries flared, and personal dramas unfolded on both sides. The gods themselves took sides, with Athena and Poseidon supporting the Greeks, while Aphrodite, Apollo, and Ares backed the Trojans. Zeus, the king of the gods, tried to maintain balance but couldn't resist meddling when it suited him. The war's turning points often came from the actions of individual heroes. Achilles, the greatest of the Greeks, was nearly unstoppable in battle, but his pride and temper often caused strife within the Greek camp. At one point, he even refused to fight after a bitter dispute with Agamemnon over a captive woman named Briseis. Without Achilles, the Greeks suffered heavy losses. On the Trojan side, Hector emerged as the city's greatest champion. Noble and brave, Hector fought not for personal glory, but to protect his family and people. His humanity stood in stark contrast to Achilles' almost godlike rage. Their inevitable duel was one of the war's most iconic moments. Achilles, seeking revenge for the death of his close friend Patroclus at Hector's hands, confronted Hector outside the gates of Troy. The fight was fierce, but ultimately one-sided. Achilles killed Hector and, in his fury, desecrated the body by dragging it behind his chariot. It was an act that shocked even the gods. Achilles' own death came soon after. Paris, with the help of the god Apollo, shot an arrow that struck Achilles in his heel, the only vulnerable part of his body. Achilles' mother, Thetis, had dipped him in the river Styx as a baby, making him invulnerable everywhere except the spot where she held him, his heel. Thus, the term Achilles' heel was born. With Achilles gone and the war dragging on, the Greeks grew desperate. It was Odysseus who devised the plan that would finally bring Troy to its knees: the Trojan horse. The Greeks built a massive wooden horse, hollow on the inside, and left it at the gates of Troy. They pretended to sail away, leaving the horse as an offering to the gods. The Trojans, believing the Greeks had given up and gone home, brought the horse into the city as a trophy of victory. That night, while the Trojans celebrated, Greek soldiers hidden inside the horse emerged, opened the city gates, and signaled their comrades to return. The Greeks poured into Troy, setting the city ablaze and slaughtering its inhabitants. King Priam was killed at the altar of Zeus. Hector's young son, Astyanax, was thrown from the city walls, and Helen was taken back to Sparta. The fall of Troy marked the end of an era. For the Greeks, it was a hollow victory. Many of the heroes who fought in the war met tragic ends. Agamemnon was murdered upon his return home. Ajax took his own life after being Even Odysseus, the mastermind behind the Trojan horse, faced a 10-year journey filled with hardships before he could return to his family in Ithaca. For the Trojans, the fall of their city was not the end of their story. Aeneas, one of the few survivors, escaped with a group of followers and eventually founded a new city. According to legend, his descendants would go on to establish Rome, linking the Trojan War to the founding myth of one of history's greatest empires. The Trojan War lives on as a timeless tale of human ambition, love, betrayal, and the interplay between mortals and gods. Its lessons resonate even today, reminding us of the costs of pride and the fragility of greatness. Troy's walls may have crumbled, but its story still stands a testament to the power of legend. So, was it all worth it? That's a question that echoes through the ages. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more Achillies from history and myth. Until next time, stay curious.